The programming of time and space. Oh my God, it is one of the biggest illusions. Okay, it is a tool and we can use it. And in fact, that's the way life seemingly appears to be using time and space. And then we use terms like luck, synchronicities, which I actually really love, but luck, synchronicities, coincidence, circumstance. Um, you were born with that, right? We find all these different things that help us justify staying in the construct of time and space, staying in that learned belief system. That's what we're taught, right? We're taught about time. Shoot, we operate on the calendar, we operate on the 24-hour clock, all these things. We've connected aging with time, we've connected achievement with time, all these different things with time. All right, today we're going to get into the other navigation tools that are available to you. Okay, there are other navigation tools. I need to bring up two of them. They're probably the two I've tapped into the most in my own life, in my own way of expressing myself. There are others, and I will talk about more of them in other times. But today, I want to hone in on these two. And the first one is called spirit-led navigation, and the second one is resonant embodiment navigation. So spirit-led navigation and resonant embodiment navigation. And these are the ways that you can collapse time and space. This is how to collapse time and space and do everything that you want to do, be everything that you want to be outside of time and space. All right, so this is, I wrote all of this down. I wrote it down to really help me and to keep my focus. So I am going to read what I've written here. We are taught to worship time. 3 years of grind before a business becomes successful. 4 years of school before we speak with authority or have clout in society to speak on a topic. 10 to 20 years before we are called a master. Time is treated like it's the only credential that will classify you as an expert. Yet mastery is not merely a number of hours. It is a state of alignment where attention, energy, and truth move together so cleanly that results appear to arrive ahead of schedule. I call this collapsing time. And there are tools for it that do not require a lifetime to learn. So not only are we going to collapse time with these new navigation tools, the new navigation tools do not take a lifetime to master. They are actually relatively straightforward. All right, so the first tool is spirit-led navigation. Some will call it intuition. Some will call it the voice of God. I call it the inner knowing that remains after fear finishes talking, after we quiet the inner critic, after we're no longer negotiating with the mind about whether or not we have the credentials to do what spirit is leading us to do. We're no longer listening to that inner critic. We're no longer doubting. In fact, we surrender. We surrender to listening to the next true step, and then we take it. This is the key. Not only are we listening to that inner voice coming through, it's quiet. Remember, this inner voice is quiet. It doesn't berate. It doesn't overpower. It is not going to tame your mind. It won't do that. It is up to you to recognize you have more tools in your arsenal here than the critic of the mind and time and space. So it's up to you to know this. So once you surrender to listening and then taking the next true step that matches that voice. If the voice says, go online and search these words, search those words. Don't rewrite what it told you. Just copy those exact words. Okay, go in and copy those exact words. So the result when you do this, people outside of you, the result to them looks like luck. How did you get so lucky? How did you get so lucky? Whoa, all of that came into play for you? Yeah. What's your answer? I was spirit led. I was spirit led. It's not an accident, okay? It's really about coherence. It's about fully understanding that there is more to you than the mental mind. It's coming out of your mental mind. It's coming into the heart space. It's allowing spirit to come through you and speak through you. Now, spirit-led navigation is not a refusal of skills. It is a refusal to delay skills behind doubt. So if you want to come into mastery, of a new area, say you want to learn how to be a painter, and you want to master being a painter for whatever reason, you just always felt drawn to wanting to be a painter. You don't have to delay that skill behind doubt because, oh, maybe I'm too old. Oh, I didn't study it in school. I haven't had painting classes, all those things, right? That's the critic. That's the critic. So what it does, spirit-led navigation, what it does ask of you is to come forward with trust, courage, and love. And you're going to put those three things into motion. You're going to trust, you're going to have courage to take the step that spirit is asking you to take. You're going to love your union with spirit. That's that devotional love that comes through. It asks you to act before you've actually gathered any other information, any permission slip to do what you're wanting to do. Because you trust you will learn as you are moving. You will learn as you are moving. And when you are spirit led, the way it collapses time is it blocks out all this excess noise and distraction to learning the very thing you're trying to learn. It takes you right to it. It's like it's a direct path to it. It just collapses time. It brings you right there. All the noise, all the distraction, everything else that would normally take, 3 years to get there goes away. And you may collapse that 3 years into 3 months, maybe even 3 minutes. I don't know. It depends on what it is. It depends on what it is. It depends on how true that inner voice is being received, right? This is the more you practice the inner voice, listening to the inner voice, the more you collapse time in achieving what it is you want to achieve. Now, the learning still happens, okay? And you can use other things as you're being spirit-led. You can use your dream state. We spend a third of our life sleeping. That sleep is not just about rest. That sleep is about escaping your conscious awareness, into your subconscious. Your subconscious awareness is aware of so much more than your conscious awareness can hold on to. Your conscious awareness is the tip of the iceberg. Your subconscious awareness is everything under the water, okay? Everything under the water. When you dream, when you go to sleep, you can tap into your subconscious. You want to learn to become a painter before you go to bed. You're going to you will tell yourself something about, I really want to study this particular painter and what they did. I want to understand what they did. And in your dream, you can do that. You will just be led there. Your subconscious will open up. You let go of the conscious awareness. You step into the subconscious. Now, how do you spirit led with that? When you are going to sleep, many people do not have a ritual and they doom scroll, right? You're scrolling. This is a waste of your, 1/3 of your life. You're wasting the active energy that is doing something in your sleep. So instead, come into spirit, come into yourself. Ask that voice for guidance on what you need to learn while you are sleeping. Ask spirit to lead you to where you need to be in your sleep state. All right. let's go into the second tool. The second tool is resonant embodiment. And this is where energy is everything. Energy now. We're going to talk about frequency here. So resonant embodiment, resonance. Resonance comes from certain frequencies, right? So atoms are arranged in charge and movement. So atoms have charges to them and they move based on these charges. Electrons exist in probabilities and relationships. So we know there are three components to an atom: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Electrons are really key. They're really key. Electrons exist in probabilities and relationship. Frequency guides their form. Frequency guides their form. The atoms are willing to move, right? Atoms will arrange themselves based on the charge and the movement and frequency. Now, if there is something that you are seeking, if there is a skill you are trying to learn, if there is a role, an archetype that you are trying to become, you must inhabit that entity that you're trying to become. So, for example, if you want to learn to dance, if you want to learn to be a ballroom dancer, you must embody the living being of a ballroom dancer. Coming back to the painter, if you want to be a painter, you have to inhabit being a painter. You have to inhabit being a painter. So this is now using energy to become the painter. So this is different than being spirit-led, right? Spirit-led is listening to that voice. This now is, how do I take the energy? I shouldn't say take the energy, but how do you become the same energy? How do you become that same frequency? So you have to allow the body, you have to allow the breath, the language to take the shape of the craft, take the shape of that craft, whatever it is, the dancer, the painter, the teacher, the mystic, and calm the nervous system. Okay, so your nervous system here is trying to protect you. And when you're trying to do something new, it wants to go haywire. But you're not going to let it. You're not going to let it. You need your nervous system to become familiar with the frequency. Familiar with the frequency that it feels safe to fully surrender and embody that new frequency. Anytime there's something new sensed by the nervous system, it's going to put up its protection rails, right? It's going to put up the fences. It's going to put up all these guardrails to protect. That's its job. So you have to become familiar with the frequency that you're trying to embody. And it's up to you now how much you want to practice being in that frequency. So it's not pretending. This is different. It's not this whole, fake it till you make it. Though, I mean, maybe people meant it to be this. I don't know. Maybe it's just, the limitation of word use and how to really think about these things. But resonant embodiment takes a little bit of practice because our goal is to get the nervous system to fully relax and allow us to surrender into this new frequency that the nervous system was not familiar with before. So this is a way to think about it. You want to begin to speak as the painter. You want to move as the dancer. You want to think about the questions that the expert would ask. Your perception is going to tune itself to the signal of that field, So information that might seem invisible to you if you're looking at it through the mind, when you embody the frequency, all of a sudden you're flooded with all this information and you might feel scared. This is when you're going to flare up the nervous system. How the hell do I know all that? How do I know all that? Because you've tapped into the frequency. You've become that frequency. So you might have pulses, moments of time, moments where you go into that frequency and then you step back out because you're not sure and you're a little bit afraid. You're like, is this magic? What is this? No, it's not magic. It is the signature of our world. Our world is comprised of magnetic and electrical fields. We have known this for so long, and we've had science describe it to us as the electromagnetic field. There are many other types of fields, but anyway, so you are going to allow yourself, allow the nervous system to tap into this frequency. Don't be afraid of it. You come into it, feel yourself as the painter, feel yourself as the dancer. All of a sudden, you might find your posture opens. All of a sudden, you might find your chest is more forward and elevated up. The crown of your head is rising up to the sky. Embody the dancer. Be the dancer. What does the dancer move like? So resonant embodiment works in short sessions at first, and this is because you're trying to get your nervous system to adjust. So choose a role and live inside that frequency for maybe at first it's a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, just a few minutes. Feel the posture, feel the tempo, feel the vocabulary, the quality of the attention. Feel the quality of the attention. Notice what it changes in your thought process, in your physical body, in your emotional body. Notice what it changes. Then step out and reflect. Step out of it and reflect on it and go, that, tell yourself that was fun. Tell yourself that was intriguing. Tell yourself you're comfortable to be more familiar with that feeling. Over time, you're going to lengthen these intervals. So it's no longer a few minutes. Maybe now you allow yourself 30 minutes. Maybe you allow yourself 3 hours. Maybe you allow yourself 3 days. Wow. Wow. 3 days of being in that frequency. All of a sudden, you know things you can't explain how you've come to know them. You didn't take 3 years to study all these different books, all these different things. Okay, so I want to move on a little bit. So these 2 tools that we've talked about now, spirit-led and resonant embodiment, are not denying linear progress. Okay, they don't deny linear progress or progress with time. They are a way to expand it. It's an expansion of time. It's an expansion of linearity. So I really picture it as either a spiral, or you could think about it as a sphere. So I've used sphere for a very long time. I love the analogy of being in a sphere because linearity is still present in a sphere. So think about it. In a sphere, you can draw a line inside that sphere from one side to the other. Think about the earth, right? It's so powerful. We see this all the time. And that line is really short relative to going on the outside of the circumference. So it's that same type of concept. And you could build many, many shortcuts in a sphere by drawing different geometrical shapes. Think about the triangle in a sphere. All of a sudden, you're going to touch 3 different points in that sphere. Think about a tetrahedron. All of a sudden, you're going to have 4 different points in the sphere. Do you see my point? Draw a pentagon, draw a hexagon, draw a cube. You can draw all these different geometric shapes within the sphere, and you can be all those individual points that touch the sphere, that are touching the sphere. You can be all those individual points at the same time. You can learn all these different skills at the same time. It is so powerful. Remember, the line is just a basic geometric shape. Why be stuck to one geometric shape when there are many different geometric shapes? You see, this is the multidimensionality of the world you actually live in. That's the world you actually live in. You don't live in just the linear world. That is just, it's like one-dimensional thinking. Trying to apply one-dimensional thinking into a 3-dimensional life. Now, sure, everything is going to condense down into the 3-dimensional life. But it doesn't mean the only tool for you is the one-dimensional tool. No, you can grab onto all these tools. Okay, so geometry becomes a way of moving through possibility. It becomes a way through moving through learning, moving through how to navigate in this life, right? It's another navigational tool using different geometries. So in a sphere, you can step through, again, all these different geometrical shapes. So we don't let time be the only authority in life. We do respect it, but we don't need to continue believing it's the only way to go from point A to point B. No, not at all. So, right, let's remember spirit-led and resonant embodiment. So if you wish to begin, start small, start real, like really come into your heart space so you can hear your spirit, right? Your spirit is going to guide you to something different than my spirit is guiding me. And that's beautiful. We want that. So start small and really come to your inward practice. If you want to practice spirit-led, it might be for you, you call it intuition. You might, God is talking to you, but start small and just trust. Maybe one thing I like to do with being spirit-led, when I was first really honing in on coming back to spirit more fully in my life, was waking up early around that 5 o'clock time. I don't use any digital. Digital is not allowed in my room. And wake up and keep everything really slow. And I would sit and I would put on a very, very dim light. And I would either have a notebook to write things, or I would just start coming into that meditation to, feel spirit, to allow spirit to talk. And I would observe all the things that would pass through. So that way I could decipher what was my inner voice relative to my mental voice, or what other, whatever voice would come through. I was learning how to distinguish them. So you might be at that level. You might be more advanced where you're hearing spirit-led guidance throughout your entire day. You're living in a spirit-led life. So you might be there. If you are living in that spirit-led life, then you know how to collapse time, and you may be good at it in certain areas of your life, and you want to improve on it in other areas of your life. There might be a deeper belief system going on that is somehow interfering with you collapsing time in that area. So that would be the place to practice. All right, my loves, that is what I have for you today. All right, we'll talk to you soon.